Chapter 76. Hera. Harrison looked at his daughter with an ashen face. Is this girl foolish? Does she not see that Helena is goading her? Herman's face darkened slightly. All of you. You'd better restrain yourselves. No matter which side lost, it would bring shame to the entire Lewises. He could not afford to lose his dignity. Seeing his old man's face turning sour, Hubert hastily said, Helena, change your conditions. No one will benefit from winning this. Helena turned her gaze. She suddenly laughed and said, How about this? If you lose, you'll have to kiss Hunter Hill once. No way. Choose something else. Hera was unsure of it herself. If she really lost, she surely could not actually kiss Hunter, right? Her first kiss should be given to the man she liked. Hubert whispered, Helena, change it. Mr. Kai is still here. If you lose and run off to kiss Hunter, how will Mr. Kai feel? I think you'd be better off just betting money, Scotty said casually. After all, she would naturally stand by her best friend. Helena replied without hesitation, All right, let's bet money then. Hera looked at Lauren somewhat uneasily. Her mother had always taught her not to gamble. Lauren pulled a purple bank card from her bag. There's 70 grand in here. Harrison swallowed his saliva and said, Our daughter's ignorant, so be it. But are you ignorant too? This 70 grand might be his wife's last possession. Lauren turned to Harrison. Bring out your secret stash as well. I don't have any secret stash. Harrison quickly covered his pocket. Lauren squinted, saying, From now on, you can sleep on the sofa. This man was not even willing to fork out money to support his own daughter. Was he really her father? Harrison almost wished he could slap himself. Why was he so tactless? He gritted his teeth and pulled a silver card from his pocket. There's 40 grand in here. Hera also brought out her own bank card. I have 110 grand on this card. The amount included the payment she just received from a supplier and the money her mother had given her to buy Nash some clothes. Helena scoffed. Are you seriously trying to bet 220 grand? While saying this, she immediately took out her own bank card. If we're going to gamble, let's go big. I have 1.5 million in here. Hera's face instantly turned pale with fright. 1.5 million? Even if they sold everything they owned, they could not come up with that much money. Scotty bit her lip. Hera, gamble with her. I'll cover the rest. After saying this, she took out all her bank cards from her bag. I have about 1.3 million on these cards. Helena knew Hera's family could not come up with that much money. She originally wanted to humiliate Hera, yet she never expected that bitch, Scotty, to step in. It took her 2 years to save up that 1.5 million. Hubert picked up his glass and leisurely took a sip from it. What's there to fear? Mr. Kai's betrothal gift is 30 million. A mere 1.5 million is nothing to us, Rooney said anxiously. But that 30 million is still frozen. We can only get our hands on it once Helena and Mr. Kai register their marriage. Hubert laughed. Mr. Kai has already given the engagement ring. Do you think he'll back out? With that, he looked at Harrison, whose face was turning darker. Besides, with Mr. Kai here, it'll be hard for us to lose. Only then did Rooney feel relieved, and she gave Lauren a complacent look. Helena got up and walked toward Kai. After whispering a few words in Kai's ear, Kai followed Helena to the main table while holding his glass. Hera tightly held Scotty's hand, her face extremely tense. This was $1.5 million they were betting on. Harrison and Lauren were so nervous that their breathing nearly stopped. Herman was helpless looking at the two families, and he sighed repeatedly in his heart. While other families were harmonious, his own was full of open and covert fights. It was simply unpleasant to look at. Meanwhile, Nash crossed his arms as he stood there like a statue. Chapter 77. Although his eyes were closed in meditation, he did not miss any of the conversations happening around him. Seeing Kai walk over with Helena, he turned and stood in front of the two. Kai had just witnessed the horror of this masked man. He put away his usual arrogance and politely laughed. We just wanted to offer a toast to the warden. Helena cooed in agreement. Yes. The warden cares for the country and the people. He defends the Northern Territory. We should show our respect. Scram! Nash's voice was icy cold. The moment his aura emerged, A wave of chill instantly enveloped the two. The glasses in Kai's and Helena's hands mysteriously shattered, causing the wine to spill all over them. Walter saw his grandson stop by the smiling Grim Reaper and quickly got up to walk over to them. "What's going on?" Kai said with a trembling voice. We just wanted to have a drink with the warden," Helena pleaded. "Grandpa, you must help us. We admire the warden a lot." "Are you the girlfriend Kai has been seeing lately?" Walter slightly furrowed his brows. He saw urgency and eagerness in Helena's eyes. This woman's eagerness to have a toast with the warden was probably due to other reasons. "Yes, my name is Helena Lewis." This was Helena and Walter's first meeting. As she was in a hurry, she had forgotten to introduce herself. Walter looked at Kai and said, "You two should step back. The warden isn't well and can only have 3 drinks. Even I don't have the chance to toast the warden." Theo had already had 2 drinks with the warden, one on behalf of his grandfather and the other on behalf of Mr. Lewis. Walter did not think he had a chance. "It doesn't have to be alcohol. Juice or tea is fine too," Helena said in desperate haste. If she could not have a drink with the warden, she would lose 1.5 million. Nash took a slow step forward. "Will you leave on your own, or should I make you?" Walter's face darkened, and he immediately scolded the two. "Get lost now." Seeing his usually gentle grandfather angry with him, Kai realized the seriousness of the situation. After all, standing in front of them was a top-tier powerhouse with overwhelming strength. "Let's go." "But, stop embarrassing me," Kai said coldly. Then, without paying any more attention to Helena, he left in big strides. Helena, feeling disheartened, lowered her head and walked back to her table. "Yay! We won!" Hira nearly jumped up in excitement. 1.5 million. This was 1.5 million. Even the peak annual profit of Baroque could not reach 1.5 million. Nash heard Hira's joyous voice, and the corner of his mouth slowly curved up. The woman was so happy from just 1.5 million. If he gave her 450 million, would she offer herself right away? Meanwhile, Helena sat back down. Rooney quickly pocketed Helena's bank card, saying, "What are you kids doing? Placing bets and all? What was said before is no longer valid. What's the matter? You can't even afford this much." Scotty looked at Helena with a face full of mockery. Lauren and Harrison also showed signs of displeasure on their faces. Then, Hubert laughed dryly. "We're all family here. Let's not take a joke too seriously." Lauren snorted coldly. "A joke?" She raised an eyebrow at Helena. "Helena, you tell me, was this all a joke?" Chapter 78. Hubert and Rooney could toss away their dignity, but Helena was a person who cared about her reputation and image the most. Therefore, Lauren chose to confront Helena. "Mom, let's just admit that we lost." With a flushed face, Helena spoke up with gritted teeth. "No way. We're talking about 1.5 million here. That's several years' worth of our expenses." Herman slammed his palm on the table and coldly uttered, "You're making a spectacle of yourselves." The bet was placed by Helena's family. Now, it was Helena's family who wanted to call it off. Money could be earned again, but the loss of dignity would only lead to ridicule. Seeing Herman angry, Rooney very reluctantly handed over the bank card. Scotty took out her phone, opened the banking app, and had Helena transfer the money via her phone. Helena transferred the 1.5 million to Scotty, her face wincing from the ache she felt. Scotty then transferred 1.2 million to Hira. With widened eyes, Hira said, "Skade, why did you give me so much? We only put up 220 grand. Scotty giggled. "We're besties. There's no need to get into details. I'm already very happy to have made 300 grand. Hira knew Scotty's character. Once she was this resolute, it was useless to resist. She silently made a decision to help Scotty ask for the guy's phone number again later. The birthday banquet lasted for about 2 hours. After Joseph gave a closing speech, he began to see off the guests. Outside the mansion, the warden crouched next to the wheelchair and bid farewell to his master. Mr. Lee embraced the warden in tears. Unable to hold himself back, the warden also had tears welling up in his eyes. Now that they had said their farewells, he feared the next time he returned would be for his master's funeral. Stellar whispered to Nash, "Can Mr. Lee's illness be cured?" Nash shook his head. "It's normal aging. the natural cycle of life. Dementia in old age was caused by the degeneration of the brain's nerves. Parkinson's disease was also caused by neurodegenerative disorders. Divine needling combined with some traditional medicine could delay such diseases, but it could not completely cure them. Nashi, how much longer can my grandfather live? Theo asked with his hands in his pockets as he looked at the old man in the wheelchair. Upon hearing Theo's endearing nickname for the masked man, Olivia's breathing hitched slightly. Was this masked man the person Theo had mentioned before? Having gone to the restroom, Lauren came out later than the others and happened to overhear Theo's words. She paused but then quickened her pace to leave. Nash pondered. If you take good care of him, he probably has about 3 years left. Theo forced a smile. 83 years old. That's a ripe old age. Upon hearing Nash's words, the warden stood up and deeply bowed at Mr. Lee. He then told Joseph, "Take good care of your father. I'll come to see him when I have time." Joseph nodded heavily. "Rest assured, warden. I'll stay by my father's side and take care of him attentively for these 3 years." After a few more pleasantries, warden, accompanied by Stellar and Nash, left under the escort of Henderson's inspection team. Hera squatted for a long time but never found the opportunity. Scotty sighed. "Forget it. I should be content with just idolizing him. I have to accept that I can't get together with him." Hera giggled. "I didn't expect you to have feelings for a man. I'll take you to a bar another day." "Forget it. I invited you countless times before this, but you never showed up." "I'll definitely go next time." "All right then. I'm going back first. Remember to go shopping with me tonight." "Okay. Come and pick me up from the office after work." After bidding farewell, the two went their separate ways. After sending the warden into the car, Nash said, "My task is complete. Take care, warden." Stellar was a bit dazed. The warden's illness. "Come and pick me up at 8 o'clock tomorrow night." After Nash was done speaking, he vanished. Chapter 79. His speed was so fast that Stellar could barely react on time. Damn it. If I didn't see it happen with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed a human being could have such speed. Stellar spat on the ground. The warden spoke in a low voice. "The abilities of the others aren't as high as his, are they?" Stellar climbed into the car while nodding. Nash's strength surpasses theirs by a large margin. As he buckled the warden's seatbelt, he continued, "There's someone who might be able to compete with him." The warden asked in surprise, "The one from Phoenix Island?" Stellar nodded silently. The warden chuckled dryly. "The one from Phoenix Island must be over 100 years old. This kid is probably only in his 20s, right?" The car started slowly, and Stellar suddenly asked, "Warden, you seem to like young people like Nash and Theo. Do you have some sort of special preference?" In private, Stellar had always considered Warden as his big brother and would occasionally joke around with him. Warden glared at Stellar unhappily. "Cut the crap, I'm as straight as an arrow." After that, he pulled a wallet from his pocket and took out an old laminated photo from it. The photo was reddened and half burnt, so the figures in it were unclear. "Do you know why I've never been home?" The warden gently touched the blurred figures in the photo. Stellar shook his head. "I have no idea. And you always bring out this old photo of yours. Is that your family in the photo?" The warden smirked in self-deprecation. "I'm the warden, the defender of the nation. I've defended this beautiful land, but I couldn't protect my own home. In the first year I went to the Northern Territory, my wife wrote to tell me she was pregnant. That year, she gave birth to a big fat boy for me, but I wasn't able to get home until the child's first birthday. When I joyfully returned home, all I saw was ruins." The warden's usual amiable aura was completely gone once he brought up his sorrowful past. It was replaced by an aura of endless killing intent. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. Such a strong aura made it hard for Stellar to breathe. The last time he saw the warden emitting such an aura was when he led 1,000,000 soldiers to defend the frontier. Stellar asked cautiously, "Who did it? Did you get your revenge?" The warden covered his mouth to cough, and the overwhelming aura around him dissipated instantly. When he lowered his hand, there were specks of blood on his palm. "I used all available resources to investigate the murderer, but all efforts ended in vain. It's as if someone knew I was investigating and they were secretly hindering me. It's been 10 years. Half a year ago, I lost contact with the last member of the intelligence team. The warden closed his eyes, deep sorrow brimming within him. Stellar was silent. If the warden was telling the truth, then this force was truly terrifying. This was even more shocking than the impact that the smiling Grim Reaper had brought upon him. How strong would a force have to be to stop the warden from investigating the truth of the matter for so many years? Was the warden's poisoning and assassination attempt related to this force? This force targeted not just Warden but all of his kin. If the person behind it was not investigated and eliminated, the warden would face even more danger in the future. Thinking of this, Stellar clenched his fists. He had to use all his connections to help the warden find out the truth. Stay out of my personal matters. The warden seemed to guess what Stellar was thinking and gave him a raspy warning. The fact that he was poisoned in the Northern Territory indicated that the force had infiltrated the Northern Territory war zone. Stellar was the one he had brought up personally, and he was also his most trusted friend. He did not want Stellar to get hurt because of his personal affairs. Nash returned to the apartment undressed and looked down at his abdomen. The 10-centimeter-long wound looked particularly terrifying. Deagle's power and speed are several times stronger than Sean's. If I had reacted a second later, I might have been cut in half by him. Chapter 80. Nash let out a sigh of lingering fear. The assassin disguised as Mr. Lee was named Deagle, a top assassin from Eurasia. 6 years ago, Deagle's ranking on the killer leaderboard was just below him. It was a showdown between top assassins. No matter how strong they were, they would not prolong the fight. Every strike was lethal. After taking a moment to recover, Nash got up and retrieved his bag from behind the sofa. He searched for a needle and thread to stitch up his wounds. Halfway through suturing, the doorbell rang. Nash could tell from the footsteps that it was not Hira, but he could tell it was a woman. It was Lauren standing quietly outside the door. This was her first time visiting Hira's apartment. Upon learning that Nash was staying with Hira, she came directly as she wanted to confirm one thing. It was whether Nash was the Nash mentioned by Olivia and Theo, and also the smiling Grim Reaper who had revealed his extraordinary abilities at Mr. Lee's banquet today. Nash, in loose pajamas and with disheveled hair, opened the door. Seeing Lauren, he appeared somewhat nervous. Lauren, what brings you here?" Lauren asked with concern. "I came to ask about your injury. Are you okay?" "Injury? What injury?" Nash responded with a bewildered expression. At the same time, he began to wonder if Lauren had figured something out. Lauren fixed her profound gaze on Nash and asked, "You're the one who wore the smiling mask at Mr. Lee's banquet, right?" "Mr. Lee's banquet? What are you talking about? What smiling mask? I don't know what you're talking about," Nash weakly replied. Lauren walked into the house and smiled, saying, "Hira and Hari aren't here. I won't tell them either." "But I really don't understand what you're saying, Lauren," Nash said, feeling helpless. "When I left the Lee's place, I heard Theo refer to the smiling Grim Reaper as Nashi, and when Olivia brought the contract to our house, she asked if Kai had a middle name that started with the letter N. So, the person Olivia was looking for is the Nashi mentioned by Theo. Which is you, the smiling Grim Reaper?" Lauren sat down on the sofa and looked around. She then shot him a smile. "You hid your clothes so quickly?" Nash's mouth twitched. "Lauren, I still don't understand what you're talking about." He thought he had disguised himself well, but he was still exposed by Olivia and Theo. Nonetheless, it did not matter. As long as he did not admit it, Lauren would surely be confused. She stood up and stared at his abdomen, squinting her eyes. "Take off your shirt." Since this kid refused to admit it, she had to resort to her last option. How else would he explain the wound on his abdomen? Nash quickly took 2 steps back, saying, "Lauren, this, She impatiently retorted, "I only asked you to take off your shirt, not your pants." Nash blushed and stammered, Is this appropriate?" She smirked and said, "Are you trying to refuse because you got severely injured when you saved Mr. Lee, so you don't want me to see?" Nash sighed deeply. Lauren thought he had acquiesced and smiled, saying, "Don't worry, I'll keep it a secret for you." However, Before she finished her sentence, she abruptly stopped. Nash had already lifted his shirt, revealing his tanned skin and beautifully sculpted six-pack. However, the wound she had expected to see was nowhere in sight. Lauren stared at Nash in disbelief. Was he not supposed to have an abdominal injury? Even if his medical skills were extraordinary and his recovery was fast, should there not at least be a scar?